I guess what I wanted to start off with tonight really is if you can all just, if if you all just ping into the chat what your key takeaways are so far from the last couple of days. Just anything that's, you know, stuck out, or anything you've learned and been able to implement so far, or just anything, just what your key takeaways are so far. Never knew about FlowPage. Yeah, it's great. I had a meeting with my marketing assistant today, and we were discussing FlowPage in more detail to see what more we could do with it. All sorts of creative ideas getting chucked around. Simple, effective mind tweaks, which will help build a huge platform of success, FlowPage, etc., etc. Getting around the FlowPage and Facebook improvements, learn so much about Facebook and how it can be a useful tool. FlowPage seems to be a little popular winner on that one. More professional outlook, e.g. domains, FlowPage, understanding of the clients. Yeah. Honestly, what I don't understand about websites, and one of my clients, they WhatsApp me before, basically this landlord wants to see their website before he like even engage with them. And I'm like, what does a website prove? You know, like what does, so because if you've got a website, that proves that you can do your job. It's like, I don't understand what a website proves, but as I said on day one, like it's just, you just need to be there. It just needs to have a presence, and that's it. Tick that box, and then, you know, you just send the domain over and send it over. So I need to up my game on social, business media. You're learning. I'm invisible. Yep. Money doesn't find invisible people. Lots of things that got my business. Well done, everyone, so far. You are right, Mark. Well done, everyone, so far. It's been awesome, the reaction to the stuff you've been doing in the groups and the homework. And, you know, it really is, it shows that, you know, you put your mind to something and you want to achieve something, you can do it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be complicated. Virtually never post on social media, trying to find more private lets like Facebook. Our social media posts are working and get more attention leads. Cool. Learning more about using social media, being present more on social media. Okay, cool. I mean, the idea of this week was to kind of teach you an element of a business. You know, this is just one part of the whole thing. So, you know, we're going to stay on the marketing topic, and that is the idea of the whole week, and just kind of keep giving you just more and more little fixes to try and, or you know, strategies to implement in your business, and hopefully by the end of the week, you know, you'll have a better business than you had at the beginning of the week. That's the idea of it all. So everyone is pretty much in agreement. I think that the marketing needs a big boost, and they need to start focusing on it a bit more. So that's, you know, good, and that means we're heading in the right directions. So what I want you to do now is, in the chat, I'd like you to put down who do you serve as a business, and what problem do you solve? I just want to get a feel for where everyone's heads are around this. So who do you serve, part one, and what problem do you solve? Tenants, landlords, problem, housing, managing property. Serve HR managers and team managers to find accommodation. Serving no one yet, brand new out of the box. Okay. Oliver, who do you think you should serve, and what problem do you think you should solve? If you don't know, it's fine, but just trying to test you a bit. So tenants and improving the quality of rental properties in the area. Contractors and business clients, primarily making their booking process as easy and as seamless as possible. Cool. Serve clients such as contractors, landlords, etc. Serve landlords who are struggling to rent out their properties due to student market not doing well. Cool. I serve my tenants and my investors. I solve the problem of badly managed properties, bad landlords, and I solve a problem of investors' money, giving them a good return. Cool. We serve landlords and solve the issue of refurb cost, cleaning and maintenance. We also serve contractors, corporate guests, and visitors to the Lake District, providing a home from home. Perfect. From the rule book, that one, Abby. My target is students, and that's who I want to ideally serve. Serve landlord and tenants, allowing landlords to rest easy and allow tenants to live nice. New serve contractors first and so on. Good. Cool. So it appears that most of us are attacking the rent-to-rent game, which is pretty much where most people probably start. That's the easiest way to build cash flow with property, definitely, and experience. Every property you take on, you will be doing small refurbs or even just the setups of them, listing them, hosting, taking tenants on, whatever it might be. So you are getting that experience. And for me, I love rent to rent, whether it's rent to rent HMOs or whether it's rent to rent SAs. I kind of just call it all rent to rent, but it is a great way to build quick cash flow. And I personally think, and I've had a few battles on Facebook over my time on this one, that experienced property investors that don't do it really, for me, are leaving a lot of money on the table because they've got the skill set, they've probably got the operation in the system. So why not just plug it in and earn more cash? But because they've got this thing on their shoulder that basically says, well, I'm not a property investor if I'm renting someone's property. Like, I couldn't give a fuck. If I'm going to borrow someone's property and make money out of it, and they're going to get a great win out of it as well, then what difference does it make? It's just a product. Property is just the product, and we use it to make more money. So that's great. So everyone's kind of on the same line. So I'll keep it a quite rent-to-rent focused rather than sort of BMV, sort of BRR type stuff. So for me, in terms of who do I serve, I would say I go after, especially, when I kind of clicked with rent to rent, I was going after landlords who were not advertising with estate agents, which means they're a bit more motivated for whatever reason. And what I found was student properties were the better deals I was getting, because a lot of landlords have had student HMOs or student minimos for quite some time, where they've got the old laminate flooring throughout, so they don't have to keep replacing carpets, and they've got the magnolia walls and the shit kitchens, and and in fact sometimes the kitchens and the bathrooms aren't that bad, but they just seem to be reluctant to spend anything on carpets or nice decoration. So they were kind of what I would look for when I was scrolling through Rightmoves, Gumtrees, Open Rents, and all those channels. And I quickly realized, because I was getting a lot of bites from it, that there was a demand there for these landlords who basically, they either don't want to put the money into the property, or they can't afford to put the money into the property, which is more often than not. So here's me who would come along and say, can I have your property for, X, Y, and Z? And, at the time I probably was doing the whole 5-year rent guarantee sort of lingo, but I don't think you should use that now. I think too many people defaulted in COVID after promising that and didn't uphold their end of the bargain. So now a lot of landlords will be like, well, I've already had one of them go faulty on me, or I've already had, someone not honor that contract. So, and I say this quite often, a landlord might not want 5 years rent guarantee. They may be planning to sell it in 3 years' time. So you come along and say, I'll give you 5 years rent guarantee. That spooks them, because they're like, oh, I want to sell it in 3 years. So that's no good for me. So I kind of go down the avenue now of, we will rent it for as long as you would like us to rent it for, and as long as it's working for us as a business. you know, so there's flexibility there in the agreement on both sides. And I think it's quite well received now. But coming back to the point, what I was looking for and what I quickly started to realize who I served was, I served landlords that couldn't afford to refurb their properties to a standard that was acceptable to the current tenant market. So your students now have got a lot of choice. They've got a lot of these fancy high-rise buildings. They've got a lot of nice HMOs they can live in. So I realized that these landlords who weren't willing to go that extra mile and do the properties up, that's kind of who I needed to serve. And I served them by upgrading the properties on my dollar. No hassle, no maintenance, you know, and all the other kind of benefits that we offer with the service. Pay them every single month, give them the market rent or there or thereabouts. And what I found was they were just blown away by the fact that 9 times out of 10, I was saying, listen, I'll refurb your property. And when I say refurb, I'm not talking about the stuff we do on the BRRs where I'm putting new kitchens and bathrooms in. I have done that once on somebody's property. But the deal worked, you know, I think it was 4 months rent free and, you know, the deal still worked. So it was worth doing. But the majority of the stuff is just a simple, you know, few feature walls or just paint the skirts a different color to the magnolia wall and just making it look a bit more attractive. And 9 times out of 10, putting carpet in. So that in itself then just changed the dynamic because I could get probably 2 or 3 months rent free because I'm going to say, like, I'm going to spend whatever, a few £1,000s on getting this set up. But in their head, they're thinking, well, if I was to do that, I'd have to spend the £2,000-3,000. Whereas if I don't have to do that and all I've got to do is give a bit of rent period away, they're not really losing the full rent because their mortgage is only going to be like, say, I don't know, 300 or 400 quid max. So really they're only losing, even if they give me 3 months rent free, they're losing less than £1,000, but they're getting the property done up. So they're not having to front the cost to get it done up. And ultimately they're finding a tenant as well who's going to pay them from month 3 onwards. So that's kind of how I started to build and where I started to focus my attention on. And, you know, I stopped looking at, you know, all the nice fancy apartments on the quayside or, you know, on the riverfronts, you know, down in Durham or, you know, I just stopped all that and I just focused on these rundown houses that, well, not rundown, they weren't that bad, you know, houses that weren't going to cost a lot to turn around and the houses that I knew the landlords would struggle to get rented because they're just not in line with the competition. You know, now our BRRs, our single lets, I know HMOs to be fair. HMOs are a bit different because you kind of 5 or 6 rooms you've got to get rented all in once. But the single lets, definitely, we pretty much get rented within about 7 days of advertising them because we do them to a good standard, which are up there with anything on the market at the minute. And on the flip side of it as well, the lenders like to borrow us money and they have commented quite a lot that they will work with us more because we do a good finish on our refurbs. So just a side note there, if you are going to get into BRR and you are going to start doing refurbs, I'm not talking about going like spending fortunes, you know, don't go, it's not high end stuff. It's just good value for money. And the lenders like to see that as well. So it gives you credibility points with the lenders. And as you grow getting lending, it does get more and more difficult. So, but back to the point of kind of who I decided to serve was, so I decided that basically a landlord with a student looking property was who I served. And what I did for them, what problem I solved for them was I would upgrade their property and I would then rent it back from them. And because most of these landlords would be seeking other avenues to get their properties rented because more than likely the estate agents aren't working for them or the open rent and things like that's not working for them because no one wants laminate floors anymore and magnolia walls. Doesn't matter who you are, you know, the students nowadays want a much higher standard accommodation. So, but they weren't prepared to put the money in. So that's kind of who I started to target when I really started to get some traction. And then by doing a good job for them, you know, what you found was they actually own quite a few properties, and it was a case of, oh, I've got a tenant leaving on this one. Do you want this one as well? And this is where, you know, adding value into somebody else's business or life, whether that be the hassle factor. So I've got one landlord that's given us 4 or 5, I think now. It was just purely because his wife was looking after the properties and getting loads of shit and just was sick of it. So we've then taken all that away from her, which is obviously easier for him. So, you know, it just is a great fit for them. And so they want to give us more and more and more. And then I've got another landlord who's given me 6, I think it is. Started with 1, and, you know, again, just refurbed it, small refurbishment, got it nice, you know, and then just work thereafter. So it's something worth considering, even if you haven't got loads of money to go and refurb these things. I'm not, you know, you can dress up a property with just painting the skirts a different color, the magnolia wall and a couple of feature walls, and that could cost you less than probably 600 quid. So, you know, there's that stuff like that you can do, where you just grey the skirts out, magnolia wall, and then a sort of pastel color feature wall, and that in itself can, you know, just turn the corner, maybe stick 600 quid worth of carpets in, and it can make a difference. You can get your money back straight away. So that's kind of who I serve and the problem that I solved, and that's where I kind of really started to scale, prying on those type of people, and I would be then angling all my marketing towards that as well. So a lot of my marketing posts were, you know, would you like your property refurbished on my money? You know, are you, you know, do you have a student property that, you know, you want a hassle-free life with, that sort of thing. And that message started to obviously get a bit of traction, and then we started getting inquiries, and then the referral side of things happens a lot, and that still happens now, but that comes from actually getting your head in the door and, you know, doing a good job once, committing to what you're saying, letting them see. Like every single time I do a refurb on someone else's property, I send the landlord the pictures, the after pictures, to say, you know, hope you don't mind, this is what we've put your property into. And every single time it's like, wow, I can't believe that. You know, that looks so different, you know, thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. And that's just to ensure that I get a referral, or I ensure that I get another property from them, you know, and they might not tell you at the first time how many properties they've got. So, so just really think about, you know, obviously a lot of people here had, you know, the comments here where, you know, you serve landlords, but you can see there that I've gone like a level deeper. So like, which landlords do you serve? You know, and don't get me wrong, like I've rented properties off nice, you know, like nice properties and, you know, quayside flats and everything in between, you know, that you're not just going to pencil yourself into that. But I'm just saying that for me is where the good deals are. That's where you get direct to landlords, and that's how you solve their problem, because that is typically the problem that I've come across that they're trying to solve. And when you start hitting them up and finding these people, they're quite easy to convert into acquisitions because they have that problem to solve, but they don't want to solve it themselves. 9 times out of 10, they don't have networks of builders, tradesmen, decorators, and then they're scared they're going to get shafted and not find the right one. You know, so as well as actually doing the work, you're solving the problem of bringing the trades to do the work that they couldn't do either. So does that all make sense? Just pop one in the chat if I'm not talking jibber jabber. Cool. So in terms of who you serve, I really want you to like take this on board and start thinking about what could you niche it down to even further. And then if you just focus on that core area for the next 4 weeks, you will start finding deals because you know who you're going for and you know what problem you're going to solve. So you can start writing your marketing exactly for that. And what happens when you start writing your marketing for that is you start calling out the right people, and you already know how you're going to solve the problem. The marketing's probably already drawn them in slightly anyway. So you know what problems they're going to solve if they've come from an advert that says, I'll refurbish your property on my money. Well, they've obviously got a property problem, or they want their property refurbished. And 9 times out of 10, they're willing to accept that you're not just going to spend your money and start paying rent from day one. That's not a win-win relationship. And it's got to be a win-win relationship on both sides of the coin. And what I also see time and time again, as we are getting into this game, maybe the first few properties that we haven't got, and we're trying to get the first few on board, we panic a bit with thinking we've got to take that deal on if we get one. Like one of my clients today, he's basically, this landlord says he's got 40 properties he'd like them to manage for him, but he wants them to pay an inflated rent for the first one to prove the relationship. As much as you don't want to burst people's bubble when they've found someone like this, for me, that just screams out that he's just dangling a carrot to get increased rent, and then they're never going to see the other 39 properties. Because for me, if he wants my client to manage their 40 properties for them, well, why not just trial 1 or 2 on a managed basis from day one, rather than having to pay an inflated rent guarantee? So for me, there's a rabbit off there straight away. But I guess that comes with experience of knowing that. But at the same time, you get the carrot dangled of acquiring potentially 40 properties and working with this massive landlord, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this sounds amazing. And you kind of forget about the deal you're getting into. And then all of a sudden it's like, and I've done it in the audience where, like, it's like, I've got 5 properties, if you take this one, I'll give you that 5, and then it's like, where's the next one? Oh, well, this happened, that happened, blah, blah, blah. And then, further ahead, I'm in a position now, just kind of like, yeah, whatever, and this particular landlord that I'm talking about has agreed 2 properties with me and then re-rented them out to somebody else. He also agreed that my project management team could go and refurbish property, and he then backtracked on that as well. But he came calling for a favor the other week. And, in my mind, once you're bitten, twice shy, as they say. So, I'm more than happy to go the extra mile for anybody. But if they're not willing to come back on me, then I'm not going to go. I'm not going to help them out anymore. I've got the one now. It actually works for us. It's quite profitable. So I wouldn't say I'm going to give it back just out of pure spite. I'll be cutting my nose off playing face. Now, I'd like the other 4, but at the same time, I'm not going to make his life easy with the other 4, because I don't think he's conducted himself professionally. And I think there's plenty of them out there. So just be careful when you are getting out there, that they're not just dangling carrots of portfolios to hook you into a property that maybe they just can't get rented. That, and they not see you coming as such, but they can tell you in experience, and you're probably a bit excitable and you're passionate about it, and you just want your first property. So just a bit of a off tangent one shot there. So what I want to dig into today is how to actually write a post. So how you should be writing your marketing posts. And there's a format that you use, and it's fairly straightforward, but you've got to be able to kind of like stick to it and lay it out in the right format. So basically, with any, and all you got to do is look at my posts to kind of see how this plays out. And your first 2 lines of any post should be a hook, like a strong hook. So let's think of an example. So you might go like, wow in capital letters, exclamation mark, and then underneath you might just put what an arsehole tenant. Could just be something as simple as that. Now, I don't mind swearing on Facebook. I don't mind, because I don't think you should hide your personality. If you wanted to put F exclamation mark ING, then you could. But the idea is that it's going to grab attention. You know, someone writes that at the top of the post, most people are going to stop and read it, and they're going to be like, right, what's next? So the first part is 2 lines, and it has to be like show-stopping, wow. Well, I don't have to say wow all the time, but just show-stopping sort of couple of sentences that really draw people in. What you then want to do is, so if we stay on the same line of this, so let's assume it's a bad tenant, then we're going to say something along the lines of, in my experience of managing tenants, I've come across a lot of damage. I've come across some cannabis farms, you know, but nothing quite compares to the state that this one's being left in, or something like that. So you kind of, what you're doing there is you're delivering your story side of it. You're being vulnerable, but you're also chucking in the mix there that you have the experience to be able to deliver this message. And this is why people should listen to the message. Now, if you feel like you haven't got the experience in terms of the operational experience, I'm sure most of you have read a lot of books about property, studied a lot of property, and are, you know, improving your knowledge every day of property. You can just say, you know, you can twist it in a way that it's like, in my experience, you know, or you can just say, you know, it seems as though a lot of people are struggling with, you know, tenants leaving their properties in a poor state, you know, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of just got to try and get the story and the experience out. Always try and write from your own experiences. So even if it's just talking about viewings or whatever it might be at this stage, dealing with, you know, trying to get deals on. So hook, two lines of hook story. Then you want to do your story / experience part of it. And then underneath that, you want to talk about the problem. So this is where you talk about the problem, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to like talk as though you're reading their mind. Like, just hands up here, who's ever read a Facebook ad or a sponsored ad, and you just think, fuck me, they're talking to me direct. Like, are they reading my mind? You know, I mean, I definitely have, you know, and that's how I end up on most of my like mentorships and paid programs and things like that, because they really like pull out of you like, fuck me, that's exactly what I've been thinking. That's exactly the problem that I've been facing. And then that wants you to go into it more. So what you want to then do is talk about the problem. So, and you can talk about it either in like the third person or just direct or however you want to talk about it. But you might go something like, you know, isn't it a nightmare when isn't it a nightmare when you get your 1 month's notice off your tenants? You know, what goes through your mind about the state of the property because you haven't checked up on it for the last 6 months? You know, is it going to be another 1,500 quid refurb to get you back in the game? You know, you could just put 3 simple lines like that. With all these type of posts as well, you want to be chucking a few emojis in there, just make them stand out a bit, but not too many, because then the algorithms slow the posts down. So you don't want to be like just filling them full of emojis. But so you're kind of talking about the problem. So, you know, and then what we're trying to do is get someone to be like, so at the other end of this post is a landlord, basically. And we then sort of saying, okay, well, someone's trashed his property. He's got experience. He's told me that. And I've definitely experienced what he's talking about there. So, you know, I've had that panic. I've had that fear. Potentially, yeah, I've had the 1,500 quid refurb, you know, or, you know, I know, you know, the tenant's done a runner, you know, yeah, I've got his deposit, but it doesn't cover the $2,000 damage and the missed month's rent or whatever it might be. So talk to the problem. And then what you then do is chuck in there, like, people think information is the solution to people. A lot of people think information is the solution in terms of marketing when they're writing it. What really is the solution is your process on how it solves it. That's what people want. People want the processes. You know, anyone can get the information. People think they need the information, but what people actually need is the processes, and what people actually want is the processes. You know, so I could say, like, I'll give you all the information out of my head in terms of a property business, or I'll give you all the processes in my business to run a property business. Type 1 or 2 in the chat, which one you want. two. See? So start talking about the processes. So the process that solves the problem. So you might then chuck in, thankfully, over time, I've discovered a 3-step process to ensure I've got the best tenants. We keep an eye on our properties and we avoid these unexpected expenses every time we turn a tenant over. So now people are like, okay, what's this process? I need to know a bit more about the process. And that's when they start to get curious, and that's when they start to want to know more. A quick tip with any marketing: never tell somebody how you do something, just tell them what you do. Key thing there. Don't tell anybody how you do it, just tell them what you do. So, because I always want them to keep asking for more. So the final part of it is the call to action. And for me, this is where everybody gets it wrong. So the standard process, and I've done this in the past, don't get me wrong, is if you'd like our help, please call, If you'd like our help, please email or DM me, So that is just the wrong way to do it, because the phone doesn't ring. Very few people send a DM. And, what you want to do is get engagement on that post. So you might put, who has experienced something similar to this comment below? Who has, put your hand up here if you've been on one of my posts and I've said, who has, comment whatever if you want it, X, Y, and Z. Hands up. It's exactly the same as this. We just spin it the other way around. So just look at my posts and just spin it the other way around. Quite a lot of my posts go out for this sort of stuff as well. So this is exactly what me and Faye were talking about earlier in our marketing meeting. How can we, really get these posts more traction? So call to action is, who else has experienced this? Or, let me put in the comments the worst tenant nightmare you've experienced being a landlord so far. What you want to do then is you want to be watching the comments, and you want to start looking at who is who's the right fit for you. Where's your avatar? Where's that person that you serve? So if we come back to my let's say so I'm serving the student type landlord who can't now get his room filled. So it might be along the lines of, can't believe I've just missed another student season, or can't believe I haven't got my property full and the universities have started. These, and then that might just be me one liner with like an emoji, and then it might just be like, what could I put in my experience? When you miss the student term, you've got to go into plan B, or you've got to go into panic mode. I'm sick of looking at these laminate horrible floors. It's no wonder the magnolia walls don't attract anybody anymore. Looking at the high-rise fancy student buildings that are out there. I can't believe I'm going to lose all this rent again this year, or for the first year, whatever it might be. And then I would put, over time, I've solved this problem for my business with my, 3-step action, which ensured that we were never empty for student season. Our properties were well respected, and our rooms were filled within 7 days. Comment below if you've ever missed a student season and you've had an empty property. So there's that's just a very simple rent to rent call out post. So then, I missed this year, I missed last year. What's next? You want to be speaking to these people. Does that make sense? Can you see how it's different to the shit that goes out there? Put your hands up if you write the shit. It's fine. We've all done it. We're all allowed to do it. You got to learn. This is what it's about. You got to come from this. You know, you learn by mistakes. You know, and I don't even think they're mistakes. I just think they're experiences, and you invest in time and courses, programs, webinars, whatever it might be, to try and get yourself better at this. And that's great. And that's part of business. That's part of the hard yards that you have to put in, because none of us were born with, there you go, that's how you do it. We've all been born with, there you go figure it out. And some people are willing to take that path and go and figure it out, and some people aren't. You know, and that's a different kettle of fish altogether, the mindset. But yeah, what's your just drop in your key takeaways so far on just that specifically? Make the CTA more interactive, help to build desire, the whole thing. Never written marketing post before. Perfect. At least you've learned something. Targeting landlords on Facebook. Stop writing crap posts. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The crap posts sometimes get the results. We're talking about long term here. You know, we're talking about making sure we get a consistent pipeline building up all the time. So we've consistently got people to talk to, rather than just pockets of stuff when you decide that you need to panic and find a few deals. So you've got to do a bit of this and a bit of that. So you write a few posts. Very different marketing approach to attract interest, no hard sell. People don't want hard sell these days. No one wants hard sell. Like, they just don't. I think it's just it's done, it's dusted. We don't live in that world anymore. And I think, you know, I'm kind of coming on to the next point, but if you create enough value, you don't need to hard sell anybody. Now, I genuinely believe that my rent guarantee, well, not rent guarantee, I hear that now, but my rent-to-rent offering to landlords is far better than any tenant can give them or any estate agent can give them. And when you passionately and genuinely believe that when you're speaking to somebody, they are fearful of missing out on that. They're like, fucking hell, I've got to get with this guy. He's going to make my life so much easier. He's going to do this. He's going to pay me that. It's, you know, how good does that sound? You know, I'm a landlord as well. So, you know, I get the phone calls from the office and like, oh, so-and-so's checked out, the property's this, or so-and-so hasn't paid the rent this month, or whatever, you know? So I understand that side of the coin as well. So me coming along, if I'm a landlord with a few properties and I've got a job and I've got a couple of kids, and really I'm not that interested in property. I just somehow managed to get a few properties because someone told me once it was a good idea for a bit of a pension fund. And then I come along and I'm like, I'm going to do this for you. You know, and if you ever want to sell the property, by the way, you know who your first phone call is. So, you know, you're giving them all these options as opposed to giving it to an estate agent who might check in every 3 months on your property to see if it's all right, but they're going to bill you 10% for that every single month. And then every time you need a tenant, because they haven't managed the current tenant correctly, every time you need a new one, they're going to bill you for that as well. You know, so there's like, for me, what we genuinely offer as a rent-to-rent service and offering is far greater than anything a tenant can offer. And when you get that across to somebody, they're left with, there is no hard sell. They should be hard selling you to actually take the property off them. Structuring posts, solving problems, don't beg, let them come, how to use posts in effective marketing tool, how to get people talking and get leads from just preventing content engagement, writing the correct message to attract the right people. I've just posted one right now as I've been listening and learning. Happy days. Let us know how it goes. How often would you post? Every fucking day. So we have a full marketing schedule, and every day we know exactly what we're posting in every single area of every single business media platform. All my posts are written out for the next 12 months. So I've done that already. I do a 8-hour session, two 4-hour sessions, and I write all my posts out. And I think there's certain things as you grow your business that you need to leverage. Fortunately, I think for my marketing assistant, I am quite passionate about marketing, and I really enjoy it. So I don't mind doing it. But I still think, even if I didn't, I'm kind of the one with the knowledge, the emotions, the understanding of the business, the understanding of the operations. So I should still be writing that content out because it comes from a different place as opposed to like just someone that's working in your business. That might change over time, you know, but at the minute. But anyway, I've done it for the next 12 months, so it's off my plate. And that means that we'll never miss a post, we'll never miss a beat. You know, it's a bit like the YouTube videos, like for the channel, they're done pretty much. You know, they're batch content stuff, so it's done. Again, it's like another time efficiency hack. So you know, I can never go, oh, well, I haven't done a post today and I can't be arsed, or work's took over, or the kids are doing me editing, or whatever it is. So I'm just not going to do that today. You know, it's done. Focus the time, and it's batched and it's done. So, so you never miss it. Right. So most of us are kind of getting the vibe now that creating value up front is where it's all at. So the more value you give up front, the more that your pipeline will blow up, the more that you'll serve people, and the more acquisitions that you'll get. So, you know, people might, like, every day we're posting stuff. You know, I've spent 8 hours of my life writing content. I would imagine 85% of that content bombs and doesn't get a reaction at all. But it's just getting it out there, because whilst people might not engage with it at that specific time, it just like is that sort of value credibility factor. You know, quite a lot of the sort of say SA stuff, we pick up a lot of SA management work from it, because people are just getting little tips from the posts all the time about cleaners, linen, rate maps, whatever, pricing structures, channel managers. You know, it's always just like little stuff that's getting dropped out there all the time. And then when people are good and ready, they put their hand up and they come over and say, I need your help. Can you help us out? Can we talk about this? You know, what do you think of this? Can you have a look at this for me? You know, and that's a lot different to just like screaming into a group or paying Facebook loads of money for a sponsored ad to say, we do SA management. If anybody wants to come on board, give us a shout and we'll do X, Y, and Z for you. And this is what we charge and blah, blah, blah. You know, so it's just delivering the content over time, playing the long game, and just delivering the value all the time and just getting more and more value out there. And, you know, a lot of people come from a different mindset that they think, oh, you should keep all that locked up. And then when they come into your service, they get the value. Well, I think it should be the other way. If you provide enough value, they want your service. Or if they, you know, if you provide enough value and show, you know, that you're doing a great job, you know, they want your service, you know, more and more and more. You know, I think, Mr. O'Boyle, you do plenty of live videos, and I've noticed that, you know, so, and, you know, you seem to be picking up more and more HMOs because you're delivering good content, you know, and you're delivering value to anybody that's potentially watching that's got a 4, 5, 6 bed house that might not want to run it themselves, that might be having the hassle. And I don't know whether you've seen an influx in your leads maybe, but you know, you start to just deliver valuable content, going on your viewings, giving ideas out there, blah, blah, blah. And that's all this is about. But the time invested versus the ROI it's hard to actually put a figure on that apart from it works. But you've got to put a lot of content out there to get something back. And that's what most people can't do. They can't stick to the plan for a long period of time. You know, if I said to, I mean, we've got an 25 or so, maybe 20. If I said to all 25 years now, I want you to do a live video for the next 30 days, every single day at 12 o'clock, I guarantee you probably 2 years would make the 30 days, you know? And that's just how it works. You all start off with, yeah, all right. And the two that might stay the course are either one, very committed and they'll do anything they're asked because they'll believe that it's valuable and it'll create results, or they maybe got some quick wins off their videos along the way and realize that, oh, actually this is worth doing. The rest that drop off will be the ones that get the hard knocks within the first couple of weeks. I don't see any results from it. And that's what happens time and time again with most of the sort of unsuccessful property entrepreneurs that I, see in the groups or whatever. It seems that they're just always trying these new avenues of quick fixes, but never sticking to one plan. If you stick to one plan and you execute it time and time again, the consistency creates the results. So well done, by the way. Well done. Finally, last point, and I'm sort of going on a bit. Make sure you're creating a long-term success for them, not for you. So always have, and I mentioned this last night, always be trying to get them the longest possible win that they can have. So, if someone does want you to rent a property for 10 years, then great, make them feel like that's exactly what you're going to do. But you need to find out first how long they want you to rent the property for. Have they got any, unexpected mortgage terms coming up? How do they need to sell the property anytime soon? How old are they? A big point that most people miss when getting into agreements is like, let's be honest, like if they, catch COVID and, something happens to them, what happens? Are the family going to honor your agreement? And this is something that people just overlook all the time, but it's something that I do talk about with them. I'm like, if the worst happens to either of us, what happens next? And that should be getting discussed. And I think, don't be afraid of having that discussion, because I think it actually makes you sound a lot more professional than not having that discussion, because you are looking at all the ultimatums and that is what you should be doing for contracts. But you want to be creating long-term success for them. Don't focus on you. Like, hopefully you're starting to realize that none of this is focusing on you. It's always focusing on your client, what you can do, how you can serve your client, what's the best for them, not for you. And then, as I said, they'll come to you when they're good and ready. And if you can show them over the long term that you can do a good job for them, you'll get more referral. I get landlords now ringing me up saying, Anna's given me your number. I'm sorry, please, if I can speak to someone else in your company if you want. I'm like, no, let's have a chat. And she's like, you rent a property off them up there, and you've also got that one from them. And she was telling us over the weekend about it. And I need, I've got this property and that property. And that happens at least several times a month, if not more. But then they've all got a few properties, and that's how you scale. But that's by focusing on the long-term success for your client, always delivering the value time and time and time again. Quite often, if there's a maintenance issue that was in their side of the contract, I'll just get it fixed, and I'll be like, just to save you the hassle, I got that fixed. If you want to give us the money for it, just give us the money for it. It was X amount, but don't worry if you don't. It's honestly no bother. They always pay, because they know that I'm the best tenant that they're ever going to have. And they're thankful that I just went and sorted the problem out and didn't bother them with the hassle of sorting it out. And can we get access? And what's the key codes? And I've got Jimmy wants to come down and have a look at it, So just always come from a position of serving your client as best you possibly can. And you'll go far. Any questions? Before I go and have me tea. I'm missing my son's last football match tonight, by the way. So there's all very special people before the madness starts. I've heard that IKEA queues are like 5 hours long, which is just mental. Commitment, exactly. I am committed because you're committed. where I have a concern about taking liability, such as rent, if there's like a risk scale of risk averse and risk not averse, I'm probably up here somewhere. So no is the honest answer. I'm not saying that's a good thing, by the way. I think it definitely helps when just sort of, I've always just been like 2 foot and just let's just go and figure it out, you know. I like to think that I soak up a lot of knowledge before I take the action, and I like to think that I'm quite confident that I know what I'm doing, even though I've never experienced it before I take the action. But ultimately, you've got to take that decision. And as I said on one of the comments last night from one of the homework assignments, the fear of it all going, everyone's got this fear in the head that if it doesn't go right, it goes spectacularly wrong and you lose thousands. And whereas really, there's a plan B and plan C before that even happens. And I always know what the plan B and plan C is, and I always analyze the downside risk of that, and I'll make my decisions based on that. But I think the definition of an entrepreneur is someone who takes financial risk for financial gain. Like, we're investors, ladies and gents, you know, like we're investors, we're property investors. So we're entrepreneurs. You know, if you want to achieve big things, you're going to have to take big risks. Like, you can't tell me that Bill Gates never took a risk in his life, or, you know, Jeff Bezos, or, you know, it's like these boys took big risks at some point in their lives. I can guarantee you that much. And if you want to get big, you got to take risk, but you got to back yourself, and that's the main thing. You know, you've got to back yourself. And like, whenever I'm looking at a mentor program or my next coach, whether it's personal business, whatever it might be, and again, I put this on a post last night. I look at, are they where I want to be, first and foremost? But then I know that somewhere inside of what they're offering, because I'm already hooked into it, or I wouldn't be even speaking to them, there is something that I need. But the information alone is not going to get me the result that I really want. And they're not going to sit beside me every single day of the week and say, do this, and Ryan, you got to do this now. Come on, get out of bed and let's go and do this, and let's ring these people and let's do that. That no one in the world's going to do that. You have to do that. But what I am confident of is, if I commit to something and I put a financial investment into something, I'll soak as much information out of that person as I can, or that program as I can, and I will make it work. You know, because there is something in there that can make it work. There's something in this 5 days that you're sat in now that will make your business work better. How much you make it work, like, not all of you will be writing posts every single day for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 12 months. I can guarantee you that now. Right now, you'll be all like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. I'm definitely going to do that. You know, I see the benefit in that happening for me. I can really see the benefit. But you write a post for 3 months and you get absolutely no engagement on them. What are you going to do? Oh, this is a waste of time. This isn't working, because everyone's looking for the quick fixes. So you've got to have that ability to be able to also double down on yourself and say, I'm not going to look for excuses. I'm not going to blame other people. I'm going to make this work. It's me that is the success or failure. It's not the program. It's not the information I'm getting, you know, because if it's working for them, it's got to work. It ultimately boils down to, am I committed enough to making it work? I don't know. Is anyone listening to the podcast today? No. It's all about mindset. So, you know, it's all about mindset and staying committed. A few more questions. For example, 10 properties of 1K is a lot of liability. Not if you're making 2K from them. So, you know, that's the difference. You're thinking from a mindset of scarcity there. So you've got, take this in the best possible way, Lewis, but you've got a money issue. And if you don't clear the money issue, you're never going to get around your scarcity with money, and you'll probably never be able to take the risks that you need to take, you know. 10K is only a massive liability if it's the wrong liability. You know, if those 10 properties generate you £1,000 profit per month, then that liability is not really that big of a risk. In fact, it's no liability. So try and start changing your mindset around money. There's plenty of videos and stuff like that online, which can help you with that. 4 properties at 4K is still scary. Same. 1 property at 1K is bigger the risk, bigger the reward. So yeah, I mean, it is, you know, it is true. Bigger the risk, bigger the reward. You got to take sensible risks, but you've got to take risks. You know, property is investing, just like buying a stock or a share. It's a risk. You may lose money, but you can, just like the city traders do. They understand a lot of data. They're very experienced. They know what they're looking for. They take big moves, and they get big results from it. But it's all educated. You know, you don't see a stockbroker. You don't see a young lad going into JP Morgan getting given $500 million to trade on day one. You know, so, but you do see, you know, I've actually got a friend, and when he talks to me about the stuff he trades, it blows my mind. Like, you know, they're investing like $500 million a day for some clients. You're like, no, what happens if it goes wrong? But, you know, they've just got such a different mindset around money. Right, take a couple more questions, so I'll go into homework. Rent to rent, although good in the short term. What about capital appreciation? Are you investing and do you train regarding both? Yes. So I, for quite a long time, really, I didn't take any money out of the business. So I basically put all the rent-to-rent cash flow that we generated into buying assets, and I continue to do that now, to be fair. So I have like the rent-to-rent money comes in, and then it just goes and buys an asset. You know, and we just keep the circle going round. So the long-term goal for us all is a nice BRR portfolio, and potentially, you know, like next year I want to look into. I like blocks of flats, so I'm going to try and find a building to convert into 5 or 6 SA flats. So, you know, and that's kind of how you gradually scale. But I do just love BRR single lets. They're quick. You can add 20 grand's worth of equity onto your net wealth statement pretty much overnight, and they cash flow anywhere from 300 to £1,000 a month, depending on what strategy you run them on. So, yeah, the ultimate goal is to build net wealth, but you can use rent to rent as a medium to build that net wealth over time. Because BRR, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, BRR is not quick. You know, I've got a decent pot of money at the minute, and I can't spend it. So I'm like sat like doing nothing with the money, and it frustrates the hell out of me. Whereas I could go and rent 5 properties tomorrow and have them set up by next week, if we queued in IKEA yesterday, and we can get them cash flowing the week after. So, you know, use the quick strategies to fund your medium to long-term strategies. And that's how I think you should build a business. In regards to posts, do you use assistant to manage them? I used to. Now I've got a wonderful lady called Faye, and she does it all for me. But quick hack, depending on where you post them from. If you post them profile, you can't. You've got to physically post them manually. But I think we spoke about this on Monday night. You can use Creator Studio for Facebook and Instagram posts. There's plenty of things like Hootsuite and stuff, but they mainly only link up to pages. So you kind of got to figure that out. How do you reach landlords, etc. on Facebook if they aren't friends with you? Become friends with them. Got 5 mortgages which are debt 400. Yeah, cool, Mark. Right, so that's I can't get into homework last night. Weirdly, I'm craving homework. Everyone else got into homework, I think, don't they? I don't think anyone else had. Did anyone? I don't think anyone else had a problem with their homework. So maybe refresh your browser, clear your cookies, all that good stuff. If not, just post it in the group. Just post it as a post in the group rather than trying to tag it under the homework queue, and we'll pick it up there. Right, cool. Homework task. It's probably already up in the group because I've been talking too long. Day 3 homework. Under the post, I want you to rethink about the first question I asked. Who do you help? Well, I've added a little question here. Who do you help? What problem do you solve? No, I haven't. Yeah. Who do you help? What problem do you solve? Think about what we've discussed at the beginning. Think about your answer at the beginning, and just go that level deeper, and then pop it in the homework post. And I will see you all tomorrow night. Thanks for your time.